I'm really excited to meet and interview today Mel Young, who right now is in Poland. He is the founder of the Homeless World Cup, which empowers homeless people all across the world and energizes them in order to better their lives. What inspired you to come up with the concept of a World Cup soccer or football competition for homeless people?
Well, I was working with homeless people. I've been set up, co-founded a magazine in street paper called The Big Issue in 1993.
Yep.
And then set up other street papers, mainly in Eastern Europe, in the mid-90s, and helped set up a network of street papers called the International Network of Street Papers. And in 2001, we were in Cape Town, and we had a great conference on the whole issue of homelessness. And at the end of it, a colleague of mine who was running a street paper in Graz in Austria and I were having a beer, and we were saying that there was a great conference, but there was no homeless people there. How could they experience what we were experiencing in terms of this kind of international inspiration?
Yeah.
And we talked through various ideas, and there were all sorts of problems, and including language. And we said, hold on a minute, there is an international language called football. So some of our homeless guys had, played football, and I said, hey, look, some of our guys in Scotland could be Scotland, and we could create a team. And Harold said, oh, we could do the same in Austria. And so we shook hands that there'd be this game, and I said Scotland will win because we never win at football, and Austria will win because they never win at football. So we agreed there'd be this competition, and then we kept talking during the night in that kind of creative way in a bar, and by the end of the night we'd invented the Homeless World Cup, where it wasn't just Scotland and Austria coming, it was everybody.
Yeah.
And then critically, the next morning at breakfast, we said, look, that was a fantastic conversation, so does it stay in the bar or will we do it? So we said, yeah, let's do it.
How do the homeless people train? Where do they prepare for the matches?
Well, the beautiful thing, and one of the reasons we use football is because it's very simple, and you just need a ball, and you can actually play anywhere. You can play in the street, or you can play in the field, or you can play in your house even, or in the office where you are. You can have a game if you like. So they train in different places. I mean, some will go to local public sports facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Some organisations have space in the back of homeless shelters, or around corners, or whatever, or church halls.
Mm-hmm.
So a huge variety of places.
Mm-hmm. And how many players do you have in Poland right now?
There's 8 per team, and so we have about 600 players here, 600 homeless people from all across the world.
And how do they travel? How do they get there? Who's funding their travel?
Now that we're established and our partners are reasonably well established, they get sponsored. So it's like any other sports sponsorship.
Yeah.
The cities now around the world bid against each other, believe it or not, to host the Homeless World Cup.
Yeah.
And so the costs for the accommodation and food, etc., once the players arrive, as soon as they arrive, is paid for by the country that they're going to.
Here, soccer or football is not quite as prevalent as it is in Europe, but are you finding recently an increased desire for the US to be involved in your competition?
Yeah, very, very much. The US actually have been in all our competitions, and we have one partner per country, and our partner in the US is an organization called Street Soccer USA, based in New York, and I think they're in over half the states. I think it's about 30 states now they're based in the US.
Yeah.
And growing, and so in different cities across the US. I was down in Austin, Texas. I've been talking to actually recently some of the ex-players who've gone through their programs and come out the other side and have kicked their drug habits and got houses and got jobs, etc., etc. What's really interesting about the US is I find that US citizens are incredibly kind and giving, actually, and so and want to do something. They don't like seeing homeless people around. So when you come up with these solutions, they're quite supportive, and so I think the US Street Soccer US is one of our best partners.
Having lived in Texas for 10 years, it warms my heart to know that you mentioned Austin and you've been there. Do you have a particular story of an individual or somebody in Austin that comes to mind where you can demonstrate an example of how football or soccer has improved their lives and changed their homeless situation?
So it was their very first kind of training day, and we were in these in this shelter, and we were getting some people to come and play. You know, there was a guy lying on the street on the pavement, and he was kind of blocking the door where we were trying to get in to play football, and to start this training. And we had to kind of almost wake him up so we could move. And then we said to him, "Hey, do you want to come and play some football inside here?" And he wasn't that keen, you know. He kind of like, "I don't think so." But and then he said, "Okay, well, I'll come and watch." And then he said, "Oh," he was watching the game, watching the ball, and we're just kicking the ball around. So it's you know, you don't have to be any standard at all. And he went, "Okay, I'll maybe come and kick a ball once." He came on and kicked it once. By the end, you couldn't get him off. He was charging around the place. And when we finished, he said, "Right, when's the next training session?" And so it's difficult to kind of tell the story of somebody who's changed their lives completely in Austin because, as I say, it's just new. But I'm sure, going on the basis of what else is happening in other cities, it'll be a success.
If people want to get involved and help, what's the best thing they can do?
Go to our website, and there's a donate button, and we're always needing money, and we always will use it effectively. But the one mantra I always say is, you know, I just don't think there should be any homelessness in the world, full stop, in this day and age. I mean, it's ridiculous. And, you know, we're very smart individuals. We invent things like the internet, which we can communicate around the world. Let me look at this now. We're just communicating. And yet we're incapable, apparently, of sorting out housing for some people. But, you know, when the United Nations says there's, you know, like 100 million people homeless, for any individual, it numbs your brain, because how do you solve that? So the answer is you just do one thing for one person, just one small thing, and if we all do it, then you'll change the world. And so my kind of message to anyone in the US where well, just do something. If it's an hour a week or something like that, or you give a little money or something like that, that could make an absolute significant difference to somebody's life.
Do you find that when homeless people get involved in this game, it then empowers them to be able to go get a job and to be able to get back on their feet in that way? Is that how it works?
Yes, I mean, the first thing that you need to understand is when you're homeless, you are excluded, and your confidence goes right down. Your self-esteem drops, self-respect isn't there, and you know, trying to get a job in the house is very, very difficult. What the football does when you're playing in a team, it gives you that bit of self-respect and notion of self-worth. And it makes it so much easier to move on. It's all about move on. It's not about here. You know, players are only allowed to come once to the event because they should be at the end of the process going somewhere else. But the psychological side is the first step, and then you can move on.
In the tournament that's happening right now, who's predicted to be the winner?
It's interesting. In the men's competitions, I think it looks like it's quite being dominated by the South Americans. The women's competition, I think it's probably going to be between Mexico, Chile, and Hungary, believe it or not, who are quite new to the women's game. Whilst we're talking about the winners here, we have 6 other cups in the main competition, and everybody gets the same medal. And basically, I would say that, there'll be a team who wins, and it'll be great, but everyone here is a winner. It's competitive, and all the players have been competitive, but it's also inclusive at the same time, and that's very important.
Yeah. Well, I'm just getting goosebumps listening to you speak, Mel. It's really, really exciting, and I really appreciate your time to talk with me today.
If you're down in Austin, you know, go and take a look, see how they're doing. I'm sure they'll be doing well.
I will. I go back home to Texas, as it were, a few times a year.
Thank you for taking an interest.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. Have a
good day.
have a great day. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, take care. Bye. Bye.